across their legal and compliance. Prior to joining Facebook, he was senior manager for legal technology at Amazon. So all of your orders, deliveries, there you have it. And a senior technical program manager, legal at Google. Rajan, as you can tell already, is a strategic thinker and hands-on leader with broad knowledge in operations, technology, and program management, right? So his focus is across legal, compliance, telecommunications, and retail markets. He's very experienced, and we'll be looking to hear from him today how he's managed, right, to be at the helm for all of these our favorite brands and what we can learn from him. So get your pens. I have mine here already, and it's going to be an exciting conversation. So Rajan, thank you very much and welcome again to the ILCA series. It's really a pleasure to have you here today. And I will dive right in. Tell us, what is it like being the head of legal and compliance at one of the biggest companies in the world? Are you superhuman, or what's your everyday like?
Thank you, Bukola, for the very nice introduction. I'm not superhuman. I'm just a normal person. I actually, having grown up in Kenya, I've learned to be humble. And so I just treat myself as what we can consider as a wananchi, which is local in Kenya. What excites me is opportunity and challenges in solving complex problems. And so in my current role, I have that, but on a grand scale. We are solving unprecedented problems globally, and the team I work with are smart, diligent, and collaborative. So having said that, right, my work usually starts between 8:30 and 9 a.m. and concludes around 6:30-ish p.m. I spend an hour or two late at night to catch up on my emails and any pending work. So that's my normal day. During the actual day itself, I spend most of my time in meetings with our internal lawyers, our stakeholders, or my very own team trying to solve business problems. We conjure up innovative solutions to automate and streamline business processes to increase efficiency. So I'll give an example. Let's say there's a need to review all my litigation matters or cases. We call matters in the US for cases. So what we do is we consolidate all this related matters into a single repository. And then we leverage data visualization tools to build these dashboards for our attorneys, so they can easily look at this information in real time and on the fly. We then take it a step further by making it self-service so that our legal staff can then actually customize these dashboards for their own needs. So these are some of the things that we look at on a daily basis at work.
That sounds quite interesting. It tells me that you are the guys who lay the foundation for even, core lawyers like ourselves. You make life easier, and, you help us make our processes as seamless as possible. So that's quite interesting. And I know you have a really core tech background. So how is it from a core tech expertise to a career in legal technology and of course now management? How did you know it was the right time to, move your area of specialization? What informed the move? And then I would go in, and of course, feel free to tell us about, was it difficult, or what was the most difficult thing about it? I have a lot of questions around it. So I'll let you start, and I will dive in if I have additional questions.
Absolutely. This is a very interesting topic because I do get asked this question multiple times. Candidly, I did not know I was going to enter into the legal space. I'll be very honest. I just followed my instinct and took on the challenges that were presented to me at that time. So just a little background. When I graduated with a computer engineering degree, I worked on building solutions and writing software. I had no idea I was going to be in this role. I never thought I would find myself working with attorneys, right? At one of the companies I worked for, there was a lawsuit. And so they asked me, can you please come in and help the legal department by building some solutions? And that's how I immersed myself in. And as I got more and more involved, I was intrigued with, there was so much opportunity here. I felt I could leverage my expertise and leadership. And by doing so, I ended up building teams from the ground up to support legal. But, it wasn't that smooth. I had challenges. It was not easy. Um, Lawyers, by general, are risk and technology adverse. They're not their goal is to practice law. It's not about taking risk. It's not about understanding technology. And here I am with the background in technology coming in. And so trying to bridge that gap was difficult. Um, we are taught to think of things as black or white, or on or off, right? It is or it isn't. But when you talk to a lawyer or an attorney, the immediate answer is it depends, right? There are shades of gray between white and black, right? And that's very difficult for someone with an engineering background. So initially, I was very frustrated because I was trying to adapt to this mode of thinking. And so I decided to take some classes in the legal space. And in that process, I actually ended up becoming a certified paralegal. So that's my journey in legal. And then since then, I never went back. I just continued to be, I like the challenge. I like the opportunity. I was always intrigued with the fees that the law firms charge, and still am. I'm still amazed at how the exorbitant fees that they charge, right? And I'm like, wow, it's just fascinating.
Don't say that out loud.
So yeah.
Amazing, amazing. I mean, a couple of things, stood out for me in what you said. And I think those really relate to seeing opportunities, and taking advantage of it, and, seeing challenges and being ready, right, to put yourself in a place where you're, positioned to support and, to lend your hand or your expertise to what is being done. And you were very right about the fact that lawyers, I think we were not the first people to embrace legal technology in any way, shape, or form. So it's quite interesting. And I like how you also talked about how you considered you needed to get some more understanding and in-depth knowledge of how the legal world works as well. So I'd ask you though, if you could go back in time, would you have done things differently to reach where you are now?
The one thing that I don't think I necessarily regret, but one thing I do ponder over is I should have, after having gotten certified, I should have pursued my complete degree in legal, gotten a JD. Um, I think that would have helped me just because I could complement providing legal advice with my engineering background, right? And so that's one thing I've realized. If I had done, maybe I would be in a different position, in a different role, maybe in a different bracket. So that's the only one thing that I sometimes ponder is perhaps I should have pursued that before getting, just before going to my engineering degree. My father had told me I should perhaps I should become a lawyer because I used to critique and I was very critical. I wouldn't say argue, but I would have multiple discourses around things.
Of this shortly. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I was going to ask our audience not to trust what you said, that you you probably should have done that, and making it sound like you are not considering it again. What intrigues me about you is your quest for knowledge, right? Uh, and you don't sound like a man who ever gives up on anything, going by your profile and everything we know. And from your LinkedIn profile as well, I see that you recently even took a Coursera course on regulatory compliance, right? And so your drive to keep learning, is very obvious. Despite being at the top of your career, it's also quite humbling, as you know. So just before I dive into other questions, since we're around here, what else do you do in terms of personal development? You told us about how you also got certification as a paralegal. You told us about some other deliberate steps, you took in growing your career, right? So what else do you do in terms of personal development?
So when I feel I'm getting satiated, I look for something new to keep me busy. Um, I've been asked, have you reached the apex in your career? And the answer is no, I've not. There's so much innovation happening, and therefore there's so much to learn, right? There are new regulatory requirements coming up constantly, and they're coming up with at a rapid pace. And so there's just on a wealth of information available and for consumption. So that intrigues me. I've also been reading up on cryptocurrency. There's been a lot of hype, a lot of momentum there. So it's been interesting. We have certain individuals that are, and we've seen new currencies coming up all the time, and so it's just fascinating to see the innovation that's behind it. And then I also like to speak at legal events, and with the goal is my actual goal is to promote the use of technology in the legal domain. So I do volunteer speaking at legal events to help people understand, to help folks that are struggling, that leverage technology as an enabler. It'll solve a lot of problems. It'll get you to where you want faster and quicker than without it.
It sounds logical that the thing I should ask you right now is, should we touch cryptocurrencies? That conversation never ends. That conversation never ends. So I will save you on that day.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I'm just wondering, over the past years, we've seen how the world has changed, and the pandemic last year, I'd say, in fact, accelerated the growth and use of technology. A lot of things have changed about how we work, how we play, and how we, in fact, live our daily lives. And so, from a tech company perspective, right, given the connected, always on, and open culture, right, how do you encourage deep work and creative thinking, within your team in the face of all of this existing and commonplace networking tools and devices? What do you do?
So I think if you look at what's transpired last year, we're in an era of digitization, and that is exploding, right? This past year, the adoption to the digital world was expedited, right, with this pandemic. We are where we are today because of it. In the pre-COVID era, it would have taken us a decade to get to where we are, right? I'll share an interesting metrics with you. The amount of data created over the next 3 years will be more than the data created over the past 30 years. And the world will create more than 3 times the data over the next 5 years than it did in the previous 5 years. It's a lot of numbers there. That just shows you the explosion that's happening in this digital era, right? As a result, the exposure to tools and the opportunities to network has never been greater. Let's look at this webinar, right? We're on a Zoom call. I'm conversating with people from all over Africa, perhaps from all over the world. 1 year ago, this probably would not have been this may not have been the opportunity that we have today, right? It probably didn't exist. And so you look at all these tools that are facilitating this opportunity, right? And this is going to spur new innovations as we move forward, right? These type of collaborations. So having said that, one of the things that I look at in my team is I encourage my team to think outside the box, right? What can we do that's different, that can differentiate us from the rest, right? And so there's that constant focus to think outside the box, where we think we'll get the most impact first, right? So that's one thing we do. The second thing we also do is we do recognize that when we take risks, some things may materialize, some things may not materialize successfully. And so we fail fast, and then we learn from it and move forward. So one thing we do is we encourage taking risks. We'll fail if we need to, right? Do a retrospective and then move forward. So those are some of the things that allows us to continue to innovate.
Take a risk, fail fast, move forward. I think that's absolutely right. Nothing should ever hold us back, right? Because
Correct.
the reality is you still need to do something, right? So the quicker you do it, you learn if you fail and you're able to pick it up and move again.
Agreed.
You're absolutely right. And I do agree as well that technology has been really accelerated. And I like that you also touched on data, and really that's what's been happening. But, bringing this home to Africa, right? I try to think about 2020. We all can stop thinking about 2028. So 2020 is really been one big deal, right? And I try to struggle with if we didn't have, all of the development, championed by people like you and, the global companies and the businesses, right? What would have happened, with Africa? What do you think about the state of legal tech development and its deployment, in Africa, right? And what should legal technology companies be most aware of when building for or launching for in Africa? I mean, it's a peculiar um, country. Also, getting people to adopt and embrace it, right? Uh, we've only had success, right, in the past year because we couldn't do anything else, right? So, what are your views? What would you recommend?
So, I will start by saying there is tremendous talent in Africa, right? And it's poised for innovation, right? Africa could leapfrog into the forefront if they embrace the digital technology quickly. We look at mobile banking, especially in Eastern Africa with the embracing of M-Pesa. It's probably much further ahead than all the countries worldwide. The adoption, the embracing of M-Pesa just has been extremely, extremely successful. So there is opportunity there. There are also some macro impediments and residual risks that will need to be addressed, right? If we can address those, I think we can see adoption of technology accelerate, right? Now, you touched a little bit on, on what should companies be aware of when launching in Africa, right? The companies that are international companies that come in need to understand the culture. Africa has a very interesting culture, right? Business dynamics and the reliability of the existing infrastructure that persists within the country, right? And it varies, from country to country, from West Africa to East Africa, North Africa to South Africa, right? It varies. It requires a lot of deliberation, patience, and perseverance to lay that foundation while they democratize and market their products, right? In addition to that, the legal system within Africa and within each country varies, right? The way law is practiced in Northern America versus in Europe is very different. And so the products or services that they offer needs to be versatile and cater to these differences.
Thank you very much. And you're absolutely right. I was going to ask you what your experience has been working with law firms across Africa. Just following on from the last point you said, of course, it's different, the way you practice things. If you think there's anything, law firms can do better, or, are there approaches you've seen in your career that you would definitely recommend for African lawyers and law firms?
So it's interesting. So my experience is only based on Eastern Africa because that's my experience, particularly with Kenya itself. We are still very paper centric as a country, right? I think while there's email is very pervasive in the country, everyone communicates in email, but documentation is still very paper focused, right? Wet signatures is still very paper focused. The concept of using digital signatures is still relatively new, right? The ability to exchange digital documents, not necessarily, not widely embraced in this country. So I see there's opportunity to go even further to digitize some of those day-to-day activities. The agreements that binding agreements that we signed to, very paper focused. So I can see opportunity to use digital signatures there. I see opportunities to scan documents and then exchange those documents via using, secured mechanisms, like whether it's a Google Drive or it's a virtual rooms, right? Be able to exchange the documents versus using, some of these delivery mechanisms like FedEx, UPS, or local post offices. So I see opportunity there.
Thank you very much, Rajan. I spun that on you, but I had to come, to the support of lawyers like myself. So it's always, interesting, hearing this. I was in a chat the other day, and we are talking about, raising Series A financing, and for lawyers, it's a lot of concern about, embracing more technology, standardization, and more efficiency, because all of the things you've touched on, right, also touch on efficiency. And I can imagine those are the things, that have helped in your career. Those are the things that help you to move things along. And I can also imagine that with law firms, being efficient makes your job more efficient, right? So you don't spend too much time
exactly
to deal with all of the processes. So thank you for that insight. I think that's helpful. And so back to your 9 to 6 p.m. You said 9 to 6:30. What's the one thing that makes you most fulfilled about your job? What's it?
I think for me, it's the ability to be challenged, be presented with problems, and then trying to come out with innovative solutions, right? So for me, that's what excites me, is dealing with problems that I've never had to, that are new to me, right? And in my role, sometimes we are required to make decisions with very little data points, or with only the data points we have available, and the ability to utilize that information to make decisions is interesting, and I like that. And sometimes it's immediate as well. So that is exciting for me, is being presented with those challenges.
Fantastic. So when you're not putting out those fires, what do you do to unwind?
So I think by nature, I'm very active, and I cannot sit idle, which can be a good thing and a bad thing depending on who you ask, right? If you ask my spouse, it's a bad thing. So I do spend a significant amount of time working because I enjoy it, right? The excitement keeps me motivated. I also enjoy spending time with my family, where we watch movies or we play board games, right? Those are all the good things. We can omit the bad things as a result. So yeah, we'll leave it there.
Surely, you're right about that. And you've told us about your very busy life, and it does sound like you have a fantastic out of work life as well. But you also sound like a very busy person, as I said. So how do you manage to juggle, work and all of this other aspects of your life? Family, relationships, personal time, all of the personal development that you do. How do you juggle it all?
So work-life balance at times tends to be a little, it varies, right? There are days where work can be very long, and there are days where it's not as busy. So I think a lot of it depends on each individual, how they balance their work-life balance. In my case, I probably am a victim of working more than balancing my life, but that's me, I think. It's just the fact that I enjoy sometimes the work, and it keeps me intrigued. It keeps me challenged. It keeps me, I would say, well oiled. That challenge. But on the to offset that, when I'm off, right? I spend that time either with my family or I reach out to my friends. We have comms, and it can be intellectual conversations. It may be anything related to just what's out there in the market, anything except politics, right? That's one thing I stay away from. I don't talk politics. That's not an area of topic that fascinates me, but it's, like crypto. It could be, hey, this new technology we've seen, or it may be, here's some problems we're seeing. How do we, it would be interesting to see how we could solve this. That's one aspect of it. And then spending time with my kids, understanding their education system, which is very different than my upbringing in Kenya, which was very British focused. So that, being able to share some of my background with my kids is also it's fascinating. There's just so much to do. There's a lot to exchange and learn from.
You sound like a man on top of it all. So well done. Very well done. Very well done. I'm conscious of the fact that we're winding down. We have, I think, about 15 minutes to go. I still have a couple of questions for you. So just before I take some additional questions, I would ask you though, and where's my host? Can you just check there's nobody from Facebook in this room? Because I'd like to ask you, what do you see yourself doing after Facebook? Tell us. What do you see yourself doing? You've had a long and rewarding career. You must have had time to imagine what's life like after.
Right. Yeah. So I haven't hit my inflection point yet, I would say, but I have thought about it, after Facebook, what's next, right? Recognizing that I'm not a person that can just sit and do nothing, right? I have to be busy. I have to keep myself busy. I see myself going independent as a consultant, helping individuals in the legal space, right? Helping law firms, helping companies, advising them on how we can leverage technology, how we can be more efficient, how we can mitigate risk. I see myself doing that a little bit more. On the side, I also foresee myself doing more community work through pro bono programs. So I'm actively involved here where I provide community service in terms of pro bono services, like to friends or to companies or to people that are underrepresented, on how we can leverage technology in their areas. So I can see myself continuing to be very active in those areas as well.
Fantastic. And talking about all of the pro bono, all of the support that you give, I should ask you, and I think we have people who are interested in that question on here. What would you recommend as how to chart a career in legal technology compliance? Do you have any recommendations?
I think so. If you have a technical background, moving from one vertical to another vertical is not the challenge. The challenge is the people dynamics. If you move to an area where technology is heavily embraced, you can make the challenge presented there may be different. If you go into a space where, if you go into legal, you need to be able to understand that educating and corralling legal folks to leverage technology is a challenge in itself as well, right? You have the technology piece of it, but it's also, I use this analogy, you can have a car. I can give you a car to drive, that's stick shift, but I learned to drive using an automatic, right? So now I have a tool or a car that I cannot use because it's stick shift, and now I have to learn to use a stick or to drive using a stick, right? Or gears, as they refer to there. So similar with technology, there are solutions available, but it's getting people to understand, getting people to change their way of conducting business or their way of thinking to one where you can use technology to help expedite your work, right? And to allow you to be more efficient. So those are some challenges that you have to overcome as you move from any vertical to any vertical. Is not just the solutions and becoming familiar with the market, but also understanding the audience and the users in those verticals.
So if I hear you, embrace change, embrace change, embrace change. We don't have to wait for the pandemic to do
You
Zoom
don't.
meetings,
Yes.
conference calls, and the likes. And, also just leading on from there, I think it's about, we see you as very experienced in the space and, a good mentor to people and, an inspiration to look up to. So I'm just wondering, are there any courses for lawyers, seminars, events you can recommend or that you think are good resources? Or does Facebook even, host any of those things that, you can share with our audience today?
So, there's a new concept of the MOOC, which is mobile online training, right? The acronym is MOOC. I would recommend looking at those. There's just so much information out there on the internet. Some good programs available are from sites like Coursera, COURSERA, right? There's some sites that are available there. LinkedIn has some sites, some training programs available. So those are some of the things that I look at. My compliance certification program, I took it through Coursera. It was something new. I wanted to learn something different. I wasn't sure if there was anything I was missing. So I took that program. I learned a couple of things from the certificate. So I would encourage people to look at MOOC programs. They're online, they're self-paced. They may not be necessarily targeted or catered to country specific, but just having some knowledge helps you understand, what is privacy about, what is compliance about, what is regulations about. Kind of gives you at least a baseline framework to build upon.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. So there you have it. For those asking the questions, check out MOOC, Mobile Online Training, Coursera. Check out LinkedIn. They have great resources. So if you're looking to learn, look for things that are relevant in your space, the sector, industry, or what have you. And I think it just goes to see how technology is changing and has changed the world. You don't have to go into a physical classroom anymore. A lot of resources online, and we can find information at our disposal and what have you. Thank you. I think I would also, ask you, just before we go off and just in case there are any additional questions before that is, if you were to advise your younger self, what advice would you be given? This one, we all have our pens out, so get started, Rajan.
I sound too dated now. So I will tell you, the opportunities available today are immense compared to what was available a decade, 2 decades ago. I don't want to reveal my age, but you can do the math there. And the opportunities that will present itself in the next decade will be even more immense than they were this decade, right? So seize these opportunities, take the risks if you can, trust your instinct, right? I would say that, be aggressive, take those opportunities, continue to learn as much as you can to pursue your North Star. So define what your North Star is and then pursue it, right? I will end with that statement is, I use this phrase all the time. The ability to act on knowledge and to influence people and work with them effectively is invaluable. They say knowledge is power, and I say knowledge, you build that knowledge to influence people, right? And the results will be just amazing.
Knowledge as a form of influence. I think you're absolutely onto something there, and that's pretty much amazing, right? So I will be thinking more about influence, when I think about knowledge. So don't shy away from learning and relearning people. We've had, a lot of insight from you today, and I'm really, really I like what you've shared with us, thinking outside the box, being deliberate, right? Seizing opportunities and not just waiting for things to come to you. those are very, good insights. And of course, to the wider Africa on our need to continue to embrace digitization. You've also, identified as the entire world as that there is there is massive talent in Africa, and we just need to seize the opportunity, right, and do what we have to do. So I think that's absolutely interesting. Before we let you go, I will ask you, do you have any final words for people? Is there anything else we need to know about life as a legal technology lawyer, as a compliance person? What would you say to us today, Rajan?
We are coming into a new norm. What that is unknown, right? I would tell everyone, embrace what's coming. The ability to adapt is going to be part of the new norm, right? Don't be too comfortable, right? Keep yourself challenged, take those risks, seize those opportunities, and learn. Just continue to learn. There's just a plethora amount of information out there. And if you need any advice, please reach out to Bukola. She'll be able to help you there.
Fantastic. And the ones I can answer, I'll be sure to reach out to you, Rajan, to support in that regard. So I think that's been pretty amazing, and you've been excellent today. This has been, for me, a very exciting conversation and a very insightful one for our audience as well. So a massive thank you. And of course, to the Innovation Law Club Africa, who is doing excellent things. I think this was wonderful. The community that is being built of technology law specialists and enthusiasts across Africa. These conversations, they're very necessary. So we do really appreciate, you're taking the time to share with us today. ILCA is focused on, bridging the literacy, collaboration, and policy gaps in innovation and technology law in Africa. So conversations with people like you, lead us into thinking about what more we have to do, leads us into thinking about what are the gaps, you've identified in your relating with us and working with us across, various countries. So this has been really helpful. A big thank you for your time. Continue to stay away from politics, as you said. And we definitely look forward to bringing you back again at some point. We're trusting you will honor our invitation. And thank you very much. I know this is early where you are. So again, thank you for waking up early and jumping with us.
No, thank you very much for having me. It was a privilege, and best of luck to everyone.
Thank you to our attendees today. I think this has been excellent. We were very mindful of your time, and we kept to our 45 minutes. So thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful day. This is the Fireside Chat and Conversation series of the ILCA. Please continue to check the ILCA's social media pages for more information on events that we have happening. The goal is to promote knowledge, information, and conversations. Have a good one, everyone. Good evening.